Alright guys, welcome to my 2024 settings video. I'm going to be showing you my camera settings, video settings, sensitivity, dead zones, everything to do with settings. I will say I think it's risky to change your settings quite often because you don't give yourself time to get used to them if you do that, and I think it's better to get used to some settings, grind with them, and you'll see the benefits from that. But I am here to give you my settings. You can take it as you will, but here they are. Okay, so these are my settings for gameplay. I know they're not too important, so I'll just leave them there. Going into camera settings though, this is when it gets a little bit juicy. I would say never ever have camera shake on. Like, if you can see, I have camera shake on here. Every single flip it shakes, and especially when you hit the ball it completely shakes. This will hinder your performance so much. I would not recommend having camera shake on at all, especially with in the air. If you were going for more advanced things, it's very hard to see and understand what you're doing, so I would definitely recommend having camera shake off. Field of view, I would say somewhere around 108 to 110. A few years back a lot of people used 102 to 100. I don't really know how we did that back in the day, because this looks terrible to me now. I personally play on 110. I think 110 is really nice, especially in the air. I would say you get a lot more control. Just general mechanics and things like that is a lot nicer with 110 on field of view. Secondly, we have distance. I'd say distance between 260 and 270, maybe 280. I think sometimes 280 is a little bit too far away. Same with 260 though. I think sometimes 260 is a little bit too close. So I like to stay between. I like to stay at 270. Height, I think, is very important to stay at 90 or 100. I think if you go a little bit higher, you're way too high. And I think if you go lower, you end up being way too low. Usually for mechanics, to be honest, if you're into freestyling, I think these can be really nice to have a low height, but I like to stay at 110. I think I forgot. 90? Yeah, I think it's 90. And for angle, I usually stay at 5. I think 4 and 6 is okay for angle. I don't think angle changes a crazy amount. You don't really see a crazy difference when you change angle. But I like to stay on 5 just because as I said, I have been on the same settings for a while now, and I don't really like to change them too much. So I'm going to stay on 5. Now we have stiffness. As you can see, it says controls how rigidly your camera follows your car. I like to have this on 0.60. I think if you go too low, you can really notice it. It's not you just feel way too far away. And then we move on to swivel speed. I think swivel speed, I have a 3. I definitely like it for aerials and things like that. I feel like I get a lot more control. Camera's not going everywhere every time I aerial. Swivel speed is one that people change a lot. I've seen people play on 2. I've seen people play on 8. Personally, I think anything above 5 is way too fast. And then we have transition speed, which I've seen a lot of people change between this as well. Some people just have it on 1, some people have it on 2. I personally like 180. It's how fast your ball cam activates. I think when you have it on 2, it's pretty much instant as soon as you press ball cam, which is a bit too fast for me. And the same as anything under 140, I think it's a little bit too slow. So I like to be on around 180. Moving on to invert swivel, I would definitely recommend having this off. I think having it on is really confusing. When you go up with your camera, it goes down, and when you go down with your camera, it goes up. I remember there were some old PlayStation games that used to be like that, and they used to confuse me so much. So I would definitely recommend having it off. So when you go up, it's up. When you go down, it's down. It's just, for me, it just makes sense just having it like that. So I would recommend having it off. Moving on to the sensitivities, I do have these quite low compared to other people. I have 1.30 and 1.30, but I would say the lower they are, the more control you can actually get over time, especially with dribbling and on the floor. I'd say it's really nice to have them low. I think fast, sometimes you just cannot control it. And then in the air, I'd say 130 as well. Just anything faster than that for me feels way too fast. Obviously it's preference, it's up to you. I think it does change with controller as well. If you have a PS5 controller, I think you can definitely go higher. If you have an Xbox controller, I think you can go higher as well. I personally use a PS4 controller, and I think 130 is quite a comfortable place for me. As I said, I haven't changed my settings in years, so I'm probably not going to change them now. And with dead zones, I have 0.05 and 0.55. I would say anything between like 0.05 and 0.08 is fine with here. I think anything too high, again, is just way too high. Like, you end up backflipping all the time, or like if you're going for quick aerials, you mess them up quite often if these are too high. So I have 0.05, and same with here really. I have usually between 0.50 and maybe like 0.65. I don't go too much higher than that. Going on to my controls here, I would recommend trying these out if you were a low rank. I wouldn't recommend trying these out if you were like quite high rank, unless you're changing like one control at a time, because if you change a bunch of controls at once, it'll be really hard to get used to them. But these are my controls. I have air roll left on R1, I have air roll right on L3. I don't use too much air roll right. I do for like recoveries and things like that, but I mostly use air roll left. I have scoreboard on L3 as well. Moving on to interface, I think the most important one on this whole entire thing is probably nameplate scale. I would have it around 130, 150. It's really important when you're playing 1v1s and things like that to see their nameplate. Usually you can see their name like behind the ball, so like sometimes you can see if they jump just by their nameplate going up. Sometimes you can see obviously if they don't jump or they're trying to fake by their nameplate barely moving. Sometimes you can just use this sort of thing as an advantage for you. These are my video settings. I would definitely recommend to only have these 3 ticked that I have ticked. I wouldn't recommend having these ticked. As you can see, if I tick them, the game looks completely different. I don't like how it looks at all. I feel like it just puts me off a lot, whereas if I take them off, I think it was them 3, if I take them off, the game looks a lot cleaner, and you can definitely I feel like you can just definitely understand like where you are, what you're doing, what's on the pitch a lot easier. And then audio, chat settings, that's basically completely up to you, same with the training ones. But yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. I hope this helped you out. Like, subscribe and comment, and let me know what videos you want to see next.